Welcome to this Pro Tips video for Research Wrench. If you've used Research Wrench, you already know how it tightens up your research. It keeps you focused by letting you work with all kinds of files from your computer, lets you work with pages from the internet, all in the same window, without having to switch applications. Research Wrench also tightens up your research by consistently capturing the source of the information that you're gathering. And it tightens up your research time by helping you move through documents with auto selection of the next paragraph and jumping to the next paragraph by just hitting tab if you want. So now let's look at some pro tips that can make your time even more efficient. First, let's talk about some creative ways to use categories to help your work. For example, you can create a Note to Myself category, talking about the scope of this particular study. I recently did a study of a Greek word which was used in both Greek philosophy and Christian theology to talk about cosmic and personal renewal, both of those ideas. In my study, I focused on the renewal of the universe aspect, but since I'd be keeping this file, I didn't want my future self to waste time looking for information which wasn't there on personal renewal. So I created a category and called it Note to Myself. I jotted a quick note about the scope of the study to save myself time later, and I moved that up to the first category position so that I'd see it right away. For another example, you can create a source category for source information that you have to recreate each time. Now, nothing in the source field is saved when you save the Research Wrench file. If you want to have easy access to your source at a later point, just create a category with the name of your source, or just call it source, then click in the source pane. Use Command A to select your whole document, and just click to put your whole source document in that source category. With me so far? This works well with things like lists or Bible searches that you'd have to recreate each time. For yet another example, create a category for endnotes or footnotes so you don't have to lose concentration scrolling back and forth in the source document. Tertullian's Ad Nationis in the Ante-Nicene Fathers series has something like 600 endnotes. So as I work through it and each one of his works, I put the endnotes from each section into a category called footnotes or endnotes. Sometimes I used more than one category. And that way I didn't have to scroll down in the source document each time I came to a footnote I wanted to see. Leaving that category displayed in the snippets field had the effect of having the document and the footnotes open in parallel windows. So I could just quickly scroll through the snippets pane and see the footnote that I wanted, rather than having to scroll back and forth and find my place again and again in the source pane. Since each time you add a snippet to a category, that category will be displayed, you might want to move the footnotes category into the very first category position. Just drag it up there so that you can find it quickly to click on the reveal button. One of my favorite examples is to create a later category. How often have you been studying something and stumbled across something else that intrigued you or fit in with another study you'd been doing? Sometimes it's a website that you want to come back to, or a quote that's just right for another project, or a topic for future study. Just create a later category and then add that something to the later category. And then you can look at it later. It'll be saved with all your other categories in this project. One of my favorite examples is creating a summary category to summarize the results of your study while it's still fresh on your mind. As you wrap up a study, or when you have to put it aside temporarily, you can create a summary category and use that to quickly summarize your study and conclusions so far. Just type your summary in the source field, select it, and click to enter it in your summary category. Or you can click on the View Snippets button next to the summary category, the one that looks kind of like a list, and type directly in the snippets pane. It'll still be saved in that category. The last trick using categories is to categorize by source rather than by topic. I've read that sometimes categorizing information too soon can frustrate the creative process. Now, if that's pertinent to your case, you can do this. Instead of making topical categories, simply label the categories with the name of the source. Then later, when your creative process is ready to create topical categories, you can copy the snippets from your existing source-based categories back into the source pane, and then resort them into your new topical categories. Next, let's talk about screen space. Screen real estate is always at a premium, and so if you would like more room for the source pane to see your original documents and web pages, just toggle the view of the snippets pane using either the Hide Snippets command in the View menu or Shift-Command-T. If you want to expand the snippets pane, just hide the source pane with the menu or Command-R.